how do you explain, what is your doctrine on the origin of the Caucasian race?
Well, the Caucasian race came about, as they're called, white people. And they were white people. It was made that Caucasian is a name given to the quality of the man, means originally bone and stale face. The person have a stale color, and his bones are weak, and the color Caucasian. But actually, he was made white. This was brought about, we would consider just recently. To talking into billions and trillions of years, the Caucasian race thereafter is just here of today almost. That took place 6,000 years ago.
I'm going to guess, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef ben Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due, we thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead, that special soul. I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We'll be right back after these quick commercials. Looking for something that feels good, looks great, and stands the test of time? Well, we have it for you. Black Royalty is our athleisure line that is made from the finest bamboo and cotton blend. We have designed high quality tracksuit and t-shirts in multiple colors that provide you the most comfort when you need it most. Whether you're in the gym or running errands or just lounging around with loved ones, you need to be in the best quality clothing as possible. We have constructed a high quality clothing line that does not break the bank, and we beat out all of our competitors on price. So please, if you're interested in being comfortable, not just in the gym, but when you're running around and doing errands, please visit blackroyaltywear.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Black Royalty. And if you have any questions or comments about our brand and how you can help participate, you can find us at blackroyaltywear@gmail.com. We'll be quick to answer your questions, and with our responses, we will be very thorough. So also, like I said, Black Royalty is for you because it was made by you with the intentions of serving you. So leave all those other clothing lines behind and get on what makes sense, something that's going to stand the test of time, because black don't crack. Looking to get the courage to get up and get out and do something this summer, whether it's just getting overall healthier state or lose a couple pounds for that beach body? Well, we got the answer for you. Summer Fitness Boot Camp, held every Saturday from June 1st to August 10th from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 39th and Cottage Grove at the football field. For a cost of $10, we put you through a rigorous training of functional and strength and endurance, using only your body weight to get into the health that you need to sustain yourself long term. So if you're interested in getting your body more active and being a healthier version of yourself, come on out. Contact 312-646-8449 or 312-391-5234. Ask for Corey or Prince Yosef. Now this is the opportunity of a lifetime where you get expertise training to get in the shape that you deserve, not just need. Once again, every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for only a cost of $10 from the weeks of June 1st to August 10th, 2019. Come out to 39th and Cottage Grove, the football field, where you can get into a better version of yourself. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome again to another installment of Know Thyself Radio, where we make it our business, our duty, our responsibility and obligation to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to solve the problems of the black man and woman of today. And I would be remiss in my duty and responsibility if I wasn't grateful for that God who left his glory to raise from amongst us a special soul who we speak of as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, but giving thanks to that God who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due. And as always, it's a pleasure and honor to come here and bear witness to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and to, in my humble opinion, to use those teachings to profoundly articulate a message that will bring some clarity as well as some decisive plans and strategies to implement so that we can overcome the circumstances of white supremacy and our open and outright enemy from dominating and controlling our every thought, move, and action. And also to disrupt the disunity amongst our people by not being able to have enough love for one another to invoke and to produce a true righteous nation on this planet that could represent the vanguard of a whole new godly and messianic age. But I wanted to most certainly open with that statement because of the simple fact that at some point, when do we realize that we gravitate to our enemy, to our adversary, or to things that's just detrimental to our overall well-being? And I fathom what is the case. And I've previously, on the last couple episodes of Know Thyself Radio, spoken about the development of the perfect slave, one who would be totally committed to the servitude of his slave master. And I said periodically that we're going to break into some of the subject matters that I cover in more detail. And though I was going to use this week as a week to do an interview, I just seen that it was imperative that I addressed a situation and circumstance that happened this week in the news by directly, where it's already directly connected and correlated to the statement that I just mentioned. Our inability to love self enough to do what is necessary to protect ourselves from the evils and the evil ones who seek to take our very lives. So I want to talk about the case of Amber Geiger, the white woman female police officer who I won't even say I believe, who I know had every right and intention, and I know I shouldn't say that, like how do you know for certain, but as I further this conversation you will see why I can so proudly and strongly with conviction say that I know that she had every intent and desire to kill that brother who was murdered in the confines and the supposed comfort of his own home, under the false pretenses that this police officer, who we have identified historically as a slave catcher, who still carries those same mandates, from Dallas, Texas, and we know about the racism, the rampant racism that is prevalent in Texas and Dallas, though it's supposed to be a progressive city because it's a major city which has a combination of blacks, whites, and Hispanics. But everywhere where white people are, racism is going to exist. I have to say that again and again because sometimes it eludes our people that that's not the reality that at some point, at some time, which we're not able to identify, we had overcome racism. That we had surpassed the ideals that whites are inherently racist, and the basis of racism that they practice is inherent and outright disdain and hate for you and I. And we know that that hate exists because they perform their hatred in the form of mass genocide and murder of all non-white people. So, as I progress through this episode, I'm going to articulate that in more than one way. And I want to show us this thing is a twofold. If we don't understand the role that we play, how complicit we are in the murdering of our own people, not just by us killing one another, but by the acceptance of how we receive the murder that is put on us by the white race. Time after time, every time we turn on the news, every time we open the paper, if people still do that, or read on their social media feed, another murder, another killing, another disaster that was obviously perpetuated by racism, white supremacy. We have a verbal outcry, which is only momentarily, and then we proceed to be reluctant in our desire to overcome that circumstance, that reality, to remove those who are continuously killing us, taking our lives very too early. And because of, I said, of our complacency, in the sense that we don't want to be more than just a slave, we help in the capitulation of it being perpetuated. Oh, what are you saying? I'm saying that our inability to act, our inability to respond, or our inability to put in preventive measures that would not just reduce, but in some circumstances outright remove those realities from being a consistent and persistent circumstance, we hide behind the false pretense of being a loving, forgiving people who just represents the interests of Christ. Now we got to realize, black people here in America and black people throughout Africa, and mostly black people throughout the world, their Christ, their Christos, their God has been in the image of the white man. If you practice Christianity, I don't even care if you have a black Jesus on your wall. The reality is the message, the story, the motivations, the rationale, and the reason on how we were developed in that ideology was based on white supremacy, was based on creating a submissive and subservient slave that will last into perpetuity. And we still hold on those same sentiments to this very day. So when we say that we're doing the Christian thing in forgiving those who not just seek to take our lives, but actually take our lives in many forms and facets, but I'm going to specifically talk about outright open murder, gun violence, hanging, mutilation, beating our black people to death. Our response is always forgiveness. And it had me in almost a situation of being perplexed, because I'm saying, is it for maybe one instance that we're such a loving, godly people, that we're such a just and righteous people, that it's just our nature to be forgiving? It's our nature to always turn the other cheek. And then I said, well, it's nothing just about being murdered. It's nothing just about being killed indiscriminately. It's nothing just about allowing people to destroy and take your very life with impunity. There's nothing just about that. That's not love. That's not compassion. That's not sympathy or empathy. that is, at the highest level, self-hate. Hate is at the root of why we keep turning the other cheek and we refuse to do anything that is substantive as far as bringing in and invoking change that will prevent that reality from continuing. Because nowhere in nature, nowhere in the universe is an organism, is an entity being continuously and bombardingly attacked and they do nothing in response. Every species on this planet, whether it be a plant, whether it be an animal, whether it be a fish, whether it be a fowl of the air, has a protection mechanism already inculcated in its very DNA that does not allow it to be just prey for anyone. The most so-called gentle animals who may not have any claws or sharp teeth have mechanisms put in place that allows it to protect itself from its predators. But the black man and the black woman has totally relinquished whatever mechanism that was originally given to it, that it has totally become vulnerable and open for mass consumption of these murderous devils. So when I see in this case where Brother Gene, who is now deceased, his brother be on the witness stand as Amber Geiger was on trial for murder of his brother, who got convicted for 10 years, which I'm going to talk about, which is a light sentence, which was a smack on the wrist and on the hand, because in actuality, she may serve 5 with good behavior, if that. But we'll get into that maybe later. But I want to talk about his response. He got on the witness stand and said, not only do I not hate you? Okay, you don't hate her. Not only do I not want you to die or rot in hell? Okay, that's understandable. But he didn't leave it there. He went further to say that I want the best for you. I want you to be happy. I love you. Hold on, you don't even know this lady. How do you love her? What about her do you love that would make you speak so affectionately of her? And then he further went to say that I don't even want you to be incarcerated. I don't even want you to go to prison. I just want you to find Christ. Which, to me, is like, oh my God. That's not natural. That's not a natural response in that situation. That's not a natural response if his brother wasn't even killed. If he just seen her walking down the street, that shouldn't even be a natural response, because what would invoke you to say that to a person that you have no connection with or to? You don't have to want her to die or get killed or murder or some type of atrocity to come or befall her. But at that same token, you shouldn't be putting that much energy into her success outside of you not being able to produce that for yourself. Because obviously you can't produce it for yourself because you're in a circumstance and situation where your brother was killed in his own house, sitting on the couch eating ice cream in his shorts that's here, before bullets were put into his very body. Hear what I'm saying. That has nothing to do with forgiveness. That has nothing to do with benevolence. That has nothing to do with some type of higher calling. Because when he said, I want you to have Christ, he's basically saying, I want you to have a system that you already have, which is a system of white supremacy. Because Christianity practiced in this country and in this world that was produced out of the Roman Catholic Church is centered around and created in white supremacy, even if you're a Black Baptist, Protestant, or whatever you may be. because your form of Christianity is totally connected to the white man and the white man's doctrine. You didn't get Jesus, or what they call as Jesus, from your black self. Whether you believe he existed or not. We believe he do. Spirit like that. We know, but we know how it's been, the story of him has been altered, how it's been rewritten, or put into a narrative that was used to oppress a people and suppress a people instead of freeing them or encouraging them. Because even the same very book that they used to use as a form of oppression, as a form of suppression, by using Jesus, he talks about being revolutionary. He talks about being one who would bring war to his oppressors and overcoming his oppressors. He's the one that said first, seek the children of Israel first, or seek the children of Judah first, or seek your people first, and then the Gentile. Seek your own first. So if that's what the man you say you're following taught, how do you do the total opposite? Because, like I said, you have been totally reduced to deaf, dumb, and blind, even more so than you was when you was in chattel slavery. Because at least when you were in chains and bonds, you had some type of resistance in you where you were seeking freedom. You had some type of desire to overcome your circumstances and situations. But because of the conditioning that has overcome us, we think, no matter of fact, we're at the point where we totally know in our hearts, even though our heart has been totally disconnected from the true and living God, that what we're doing is the right thing, that we're already free. And to keep our freedom, we got to do the only thing that would ensure it. And that's not looking out for self. That's not protecting self. That's not codifying amongst one another and putting us in a situation where these things don't continuously happen. Whether it be a man sitting in his own house eating ice cream, whether it be a young 12-year-old playing in the park, whether it be a woman who was pulled over for a turning signal or a broken tail light, whether it be a man who was in the car with his wife who wasn't even driving, who so-called followed the rules and had a registered weapon, who was still killed, whether it be a son who we felt was disturbed that was walking away from police when a police officer pulled up and shot him 16 times in the back. And we can go on and on and on, whether it be guys who are not even affiliated with the police department, but because they're white and they have the complexion for protection, they're able to kill our children, choke them out, and all he had was some Skittles in his hand. This is your real reality. And what you have been perpetuating is one that keeps you in an imaginary world. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because this is the other side of white supremacy. This is a dangerous side, because Negroes like that are more detrimental than a Trump. Because you, under the false pretenses that because they have your black skin, that they have your same interests in hand. And they're able to matriculate and integrate into black society. And you, being who you are, welcome and accept them. Or even if you don't welcome and accept them, you don't put any procedures in place where it's a form of punishment to work against your own best interest, to work against your own people. They're able to roam freely and do things like this. Because these are dog whistles that are put out into white society and say, it's okay to do what you're doing. We're going to forgive you. We're not going to put up no fight. We're not going to put up no resistance. So what does it say to the predator? That these guys are still prey. We don't have to worry about ever them fighting back. It's open season. So why would they change? Because you said you forgive them? Why would they change? Because you say you don't hate them and you love them and you think that is supposed to change their heart? Absolutely not. We have to be able to identify those who are a traitor to the interests of black people. And we don't know how complicit we are. And even those who are somewhat supposedly conscious, their inability to identify and not put in place the proper protective mechanisms, the proper measures in place that don't allow these type of people to continue to feel comfortable are still or just as fault as those who committed the crimes and those who are allowing it to happen and aiding and assisting, or in legal terms, aiding and abetting. And so this is why it's so important that we come to this understanding, because we got to realize, and you can use examples like Haiti and the Haitian Revolution and how they were overthrown by the inside by those who had dual allegiances to someone else or some other entity, like the mulatto race that was in Haiti. So after they overthrew the European governments and kicked everyone out, you still had those who were products of that interracial relationship, or the slave masters really raping the blacks on the island and produce the children who had affinity to their white fathers, who now still had the mind of their fathers, who would end up imploding and undoing all of the progress that was made from the revolution in that country. And why am I saying that? Because not only was the brother complicit, or even, I believe it's the bailsman who was combing her hair. One of the members of the court who was combing Amber Geiger's hair during the trial. Another way to show how submissive we are. She couldn't even focus on being her job or doing her job, because she wanted to show, hey, whatever happens here, we're still team white supremacy. Or the judge who allowed, after the brother who was killed, his biological brother was on witness stand, said all those things. He asked, could he just hug her? I just want to touch my white mommy. I just want to touch her whiteness. And yeah, you can. That's not even proper protocol. But we knew earlier how this was going. This same black judge who allowed the castle doctrine to be accepted or to be permitted into the court and to the jurors, which states in the state of Texas that you have the right to kill someone who enters into your home as an invader. The castle, you can protect your castle, the castle doctrine. Only problem with that is that has no standing because that wasn't her home. So now you're using, just because I'm white and I can make the rules, that because I thought it was my home, that's good enough for me to kill this man who you knew wasn't a threat, because as they said, they found him sitting in the couch eating ice cream. So you didn't have to shoot to kill him. Even if it was your house, even if he was sitting there, you didn't have to shoot to kill him. But that's all hypothetical, because it wasn't your house and you wasn't supposed to be there. There's a lot of other sketchy stuff around there. And those who was doing their due diligence and research, as a sidebar, you've seen anti-black hatred that Amber Geiger spewed for years, whether it be her racist tweets or her quotes and text messages that she had with other officers, and how she talked about being around black men and how uncomfortable she felt and how they just do things different, but I'm not a racist, and the belittling of Dr. Martin Luther King and the Dr. Martin Luther King Day Parade and these little things. See, there is no love for you from these people. But when you got people like the judge, or you got people who were trained in these Western institutions, they're automatically and directly connected to white supremacy. You can't separate the two. That's what we got to understand. That's why you have to have a nation of your own. Because those who were developed in a Western civilization are devoted to Western civilization, which i.e. is just white supremacy, and they can't deny the favor of white supremacy. It's impossible to separate the two. They joined at the hip. So if your mind has been developed with their Western doctrine, your heart belongs to white supremacy. That's why it's so important that we understand the war that is going on, the war that is being waged, not just against our European adversaries, the white supremacists, are open and outright enemy, but the collaborators, the assimilationists who have formed an allegiance and joined up with the white supremacists to keep us in this predicament. And that's why we have to clean house ourselves. Because you can never have independence when you got black people, original people, undermining you with the European mind. So first, we got to understand a civil war amongst us is essential for victory. They understood it, and they did it in their world. Now it's time for us to do it in our world. That's why you have to understand who is God and who is the devil. Because the God of the white man inspires him to do crime, inspires him to do murder, inspires him to create havoc on this planet. And because we're of the God of benevolence, we're of a God of freedom, peace, and justice, we think it's one God. But there is not one God. There's never been one God. They have their own God. They have their own ideology. They have their own purpose and destiny, a nature that is separate from yours. And until you come into that realization, you're always going to be under the foot of your enemy. There's no way ever to change that reality. And that's why it's so imperative that you give up their name and you give up the image of the white man's God so that you can start the process to liberating your heart from his conditioning that he has over you. Now, this wouldn't be Know Thyself radio show if we don't take our time to go through the Messenger's book. And I want to go to the Message to the Black Man in America, page 128, The Blood Shedder. Now listen to this, because it's perfectly connected to the conversation that we're having today. According to the word of Allah God and the history of the world, since the grafting of the Caucasian race 6,000 years ago, they have caused more bloodshed than any other people known to the black nation. Born murderers. Their very nature is to murder. So now you see why it's so apparent that the circumstances that was surrounding the murder of our brother does not make sense. But it only does not make sense if you're trying to rationalize somebody accidentally walking into a house that she thought was hers and then killing a supposed intruder. No, that would never make sense. But if you understand that she had the intent on going in there and murdering that man, now it makes all sense. Why? Because their very nature is that to murder, is to cause bloodshed. No one on the planet has caused more bloodshed than the white Caucasian race in the 6,000 years that they have been on this planet, than the whole trillion some years that this earth has been in existence. No rhyme, no reason, no purpose in why they kill. They just kill because it is what they were created to do. That sounds harsh. That sounds mean. That sounds so vindictive. I know, but it's the truth. And the only reason it sounds that way to you, because you won't let them go as your God. The Holy Bible and the Quran are full of teachings of this bloody race of devils, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. They shed the lifeblood of all life, even their own, and are scientists at deceiving the black people. Now, I want to take a quick pause from that particular point, because we got to understand what he's saying. They are scientists at deceiving the black people. Look at what I said earlier. That brother got on the witness stand and said, I love you. I love you. I don't know you. You just killed my brother in cold blood, but I love you. How confused, we talked about last week, the art of confusion. How confused does one have to be to know that his life is in danger, and for him to use as a coping mechanism or not to deal with that danger, on by superimposing a false sense of love. You don't even understand what the word love means, because to love means that you want to protect, proliferate, and perpetuate life. The very sense that you think that you're connected to somebody who just killed your brother, who still has the same mentality about killing you and people like you, shows that love is totally not even in the equation. See, we don't know what love is because we've been deceived to think it is acceptance of things that are not good for who and what we are as a people, as a black people, what is advantageous for us. So everything that we say we love or we gravitate to actually has a detrimental effect on our lives. And that's why the people that are closest to us have the greatest effect on us as far as tearing us down. Think about your brothers and sisters, your parents. When you try to do right for self, those are the main ones in some instances. In most instances, especially in our neighborhoods and our communities, are the ones that will criticize, ostracize, and demonize the very thing that you're doing to improve yourself. Go tell people that you found the teachings of the messenger and you're using them to improve your life, how they will respond. Oh, you doing that cult teaching. You doing that. You following that hater. Well, the only hater I see is you, because obviously if I'm doing something that is beneficial for me, that is improving me, that's cleaning me up as a man and a woman, and you're telling me that I should not do it, that means not only do you hate me, but since you're not doing it and you're not taking heed to what I'm giving you, you hate yourself. But that comes from the science of deceiving someone. You have been deceived by the arch deceiver. I'm gonna keep reading. They deceived the very people of paradise. Bible, Genesis, 3rd chapter and 13th verse. They killed their own brother. Genesis, 4th chapter, 8th verse. The innocent's earth's blood. Genesis, 4th chapter, 10th verse. Revealed it to its maker, thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. The very earth, the soil of America, soaked with the innocent blood of the so-called Negroes shed by the race of devils, now crieth out to its maker for the burden of carrying the innocent blood of the righteous slain upon her. Let us take a look at the devil's creation from the teaching of the Holy Quran. And when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to place in the earth one who shall rule, the angel said, what wilt thou place in this such as shall make mischief in it and shed blood? We celebrate thy praise and extol thy holiness. The Holy Quran, Sharif, 2nd chapter, 30th verse. This devil race has and still is doing just that, making mischief and shedding blood of the black nation whom they were grafted from. Your Lord said to the angel, surely I am going to create a mortal of the essence of black mud fashioned in shape. The Holy Quran, Sharif, 15th and 28th verse. The essence of the black mud, the black nation mentioned, is only symbolic, which actually means the sperm of the black nation, and they refuse to recognize the black nation as their equal, though they were made from the black scientist named Yaqub. They could never see their way in submitting to Allah and the religion of Islam and its prophets. The slave masters' every cry is to beat, kill the so-called Negro. Maybe the day has arrived that Allah will return to the devils that which they have been so anxious to pour on the poor innocent so-called Negroes. Allah will give you your own blood to drink like water, and your arms and allies will not help you against him. Revelation 16 and 6. The heads and bodies of the so-called Negroes are used to test the clubs and guns of the devil, and yet the poor foolish so-called Negroes admire the devils regardless to how they are treated. America is now under divine plagues. One will come after another until she is destroyed. Allah has said it. So you must realize what I'm saying. They have got past the point where their armed forces, where their intelligence agencies, where their medical systems, where their social systems, the technological systems are using and creating weapons to destroy, to kill, to maim the black man and woman. Now the civilians and those in blue collar jobs, and they've been doing it, but they're being more aggressive with their intent and their desire, are using their position in power, which is just their whiteness, to kill, maim, and destroy. And you still are sitting idly by as if this isn't not just a reoccurring event, but something that is totally decimating you from this planet. We got to realize the agenda is to replace you. The agenda is to remove you. The agenda is to kill and to wipe you off from the present so that you would no longer be in remembrance. And those that they cannot kill, which I said and stated before, they want to emasculate to a sense that you are ineffective and unidentifiable as it relates to your original intent and purpose. Transsexual is the precursor to transhumanism, which is twofold: to take one into a more robotic state to ensure their longevity, which is the white man trying to do. That's why he's becoming and creating these cyborgs, to put his so-called mind and his heart and his desires into a mechanism that can sustain itself long term, but also to dehumanize the original black man and woman, to take you from being a god to something other than, to create something new. The dehumanization of our people, so you would no longer be in remembrance. So let's focus on this memory thing for a second, because I want us to understand that you got to understand that they have created through habitual practices a level of repetition in our people that you're not able to access the power of the memory of your true nature unless it is externally invoked, because they put you in what they call habit memory, which is a non-cognitive type of memory that has also been referred to as a procedural memory, just basically meaning that it's the automatic process that encompasses conditioned reflexes. Hear what I'm saying? You put information into something, into the memory, into the brain, and though it may not be initially stored, you put it in such a way that it's repetitive that it becomes conditioned. So subconsciously, you're not even aware of what is changing your psychologically, emotionally, and mentally. Your neurological pathways, what's changing you, because it becomes so repetitious that it becomes second nature. So now you create a relationship between stimulus and response. So once you've conditioned and trained, just like you do a dog, it's not necessarily memory, it's repetition. You keep doing this, you having this response, you have this response, and to a point that you automatically react when certain conditions are put in place. So they know how you're going to act in these instances, because it's been done to such a level that you've been conditioned to where this is your only form of response. So those who are studying this system that they have created, that the white man's created, because the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, study the white man, you will learn much. You see that the response that the brother gave on the witness stand wasn't, for those who were paying attention and been paying attention, something as far-fetched out of the ordinary. No, that was the natural response of somebody who has been conditioned to be a slave into perpetuity, who is totally removed from being a god, who has been transformed and dehumanized at the highest level, that is entrenched and engulfed in self-hate. So you are being manifested in a position where you're devoid of any protective response. Damn. So you are automatically and non-voluntarily a reflection of the social conditioning that has been placed on our people. The perfect Negro, the one who takes his beating with a smile. So now you can see why we have no immunity to the disease that is white supremacy. Because we know immunity is just the ability of a living individual to resist or overcome infection. But the state of resistance is indicated either, or the state of our resistance is indicated by either the failure of the individual to develop the disease upon exposure, or in some cases by demonstration of specific immune bodies in the blood which are considered effective against invading organisms. Now understand that. How do you know that resistance, that immunity is working? How do you know your defense mechanism is working as a black man and a woman? One, when you're exposed to white supremacy, you're just exposed to this self-hate, you don't get engulfed by it. You don't get overcome by it. You don't get infected by it. And if it gets to a certain level where it's all around you, certain things kick in, or if you start to succumb to it, at some point, certain antibodies kick in your mind, in your heart, in your brain, in your livelihood, in your spirit, that effectively fights against these invading organisms, meaning that you won't let white people come into your communities, into your neighborhoods, and kill you aimlessly in the street, and you don't do nothing about it. So it's either one or two things. The first thing, you don't let them come in at all because you got such a protective barrier up that they can't even come into your communities. What you doing here? Like they do when you come to America or you go to any country. You got to go to border control. What's your reason for being here? What's your purpose? What's your business? I just want to come to visit. No. Why are you visiting? I just want to see the sights. Okay, that's cool. But who told you? That's the type of question they ask you and I when we go places around this world, because I've been around the world. And if you get in and you happen to do something that is contradictory to what they have already established as their best interest, the law comes down on you like a hammer. Because they want to show you that this is not acceptable. This is not tolerated. This is not something that will continue to happen. So there are punishments for causing some type of disruption in their society. Whether you feel it's just or not, whether you feel it's innocent or not, is immaterial. If they feel that it is contradictory to what they want going on, they have the ability to protect themselves by implementing their form of justice. You don't do that. So that's why they can kill Tamir Rice at 12 years old and you don't do nothing about it but cry and take a settlement for a couple pennies after they murder your child. They kill Trayvon Martin, you don't do nothing. George Zimmerman's still running around doing what he wants. You can kill a brother in his own house while he's eating ice cream on the couch, and you get up when she was being sentenced and you give her a hug and tell her how much you love her. You don't have any immunity. You don't have any protection mechanism that allows you to not just evade injustices, but produce justice on your own. Because immunity, at least natural immunity, is immunity which we are born with, which enables us to resist infection without even having a disease. But that's why it's so important. How do you have natural immunity? You have to be in an environment where you have been trained and taught on how to identify infectious disease so that you don't even allow them to come in. You already have borders and procedures put in place that already will circumvent that reality, so they don't even become an issue. But because of white supremacy has torn us down, because we have been reduced to a slave, because of us 64 years from 1555 to 1619 that we were totally reduced. All the light has been cut off from reaching the slave. We have now have to get in the sense where we reproduce or restore our immune system through other means. Gotta hear me now. Because if you don't have a protection mechanism in place, you are vulnerable to any and everything. So that's why we must have acquired immunity. The immunity that is acquired by an individual during his lifetime. And what are we saying is that immunity in this day and time? It's the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was given to him by God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom righteous praise is forever due. Love for self, knowledge of self, knowledge of the devil, knowledge of the living God, how to pull your resources together, how to defend yourself, how to have the disciplines that's necessary and needed to defend yourself from outside entities that seek to do you harm. This is more than just an organization. This is more than just an after-school club or religion, as which we've been given through the forms of Christianity and other white dominant ideologies. This is our very form of protection of life. If you don't have this understanding, you don't have anything, brother and sister. It's time to get back to who we are and what we are, and stop hiding behind the false pretenses of being a kind and just people, because all I gotta do is step on a black man's shoe and he's gonna be ready to kill me. But a white person can actually kill you or your children, who you should be God bound to protect, and you tell them you forgive them and you just want to give them a hug and you love them. Your brothers, your sisters, your wife, your husbands. That's what you've been reduced to. That's not love, brother and sister. That's hate. Not hate for them, but hate for yourself. And because of that, that's why we are in the circumstance that we're in, and we refuse to remove ourselves from it. You gotta wake up. You gotta do better. You gotta get that immune system strong again. And it's only gonna be through the knowledge of the living God. Man, we've had enough example of how much hate and disdain that these people have from us. They're not your brother, they're not your sister, they're not your friend. Because they are the great arch deceivers, they have done a good job, a great job in some instances, in fooling us. But the reality of it is, if you take a critical look at the reality, it's really blatant, it's really clear that they have no intentions on doing you good or justice. They only tend to do you harm and to totally eradicate you from this planet. Use this example of Amber Geiger and all those who came before as an example on what needs to be done and what should be done and what doesn't need to be done. The approach that should not be taken. Because if we don't, your life will be the very next one that's taken. Take it serious, brother and sister. You are in war whether you accept it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you want it or not. It's already in your house, as we see with the instance in this case of the brother who was murdered in his house. There is no safe place in hell. There is no safe place wherever white supremacy has dominion resides. You have to create a safe place. It's time to create a nation of our own. It's time to create a world of our own that we govern and we protect under the guidelines, under the ordinance, under the laws and statutes of the living God. Truth, justice, peace, and equality. It's time to clean house. It's time to remove all those assimilationists who are collaborators, with white supremacy, who are destroying our people, because they're not one of us no more. Once you accept white supremacy as a black man, you relinquish your black card. And we have to come to grips with that. And I know it hurts to say, because a lot of those people are our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our girlfriends, our boyfriends, our husbands, our wives, our children. But what's more important? The life of one, or the continuation of humanity as a whole? You must make the choice. I thank you for listening as I leave you in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.